Wow.
Wow.
Okay, she's very perky. Thank you all for coming to the April meeting of the Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board. If you're in the Zoom connection, please just put your name and what brings you here in the chat. We'll go around the room so people know who we are. Frederick, should we start with you? Can everyone hear? First of all, can everyone hear Frederick?
Frederick Phillips, Master Composter.
Bravo.
Matt Savella, Chair of the Manhattan SWAB.
I'm Rhonda. I'm Chair of the Brooklyn SWAB.
Hi, I'm Janelle. I'm the Climate Director at Align, and we're with the Transform Don't Trash Coalition.
I'm Julia. I'm the Researcher and Policy Analyst at Align, part of TBT.
Robert Saffer, BkSWAB, Imani Garden.
Sure. I'm Lily Collins. I'm a professor at Hunter, and I'm here with the Alliance. I'm Sheridan, grad student under Hunter College, also here at TBT.
Jason Ginsberg, Brooklyn SWAB member.
Sherry Rickle, Brooklyn SWAB member and on the Outreach Committee.
Liz Reisman, Brooklyn SWAB member and Events Committee.
Mary Ellen Sullivan, Brooklyn SWAB Secretary and Events and Outreach. Okay.
Lacey Tauber, Legislative Director for Brooklyn Borough President Munoso.
Beth Slutty, Vice Chair of the Brooklyn SWAB.
Hi, Michael Reeser, Sergeant Arms for the Brooklyn SWAB, and I work for Paycare.
Okay, so I think we'll just turn it over to our speakers. We've got several speakers from the Transform Don't Trash Coalition. We shared what they, these are folks here to talk about the swamp specifically this evening. They're going around and speaking to different community groups and advocacy groups about the swamp, and we'll hear more about what they have to say. There's going to be a number of speakers, and we're going to start with Janelle Scott, who will introduce everyone else.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Again, I'm Janelle Scott. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Climate Director at Align. Thank you all for having us join your April meeting so we can talk about the solid waste management plan. I guess before we start, I'll just let some of the members of the coalition introduce themselves, and then we'll kind of go through what the purposes of us being here, walk through the agenda, give a little background on the swamp. But yeah, I know, Julia, do you want to go?
I'm Julia. I use she, her pronouns. We just met. We did maybe pass it to Nikki, and Nikki can popcorn from there.
Sure. Nikki Cross. I'm a staff attorney with New York Lawyers for the Public Interest in our environmental justice program. I use and I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi, everyone. My name is Eunice Coe. I'm Deputy Director at the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, and I go by she, her. I will pass it off to Eric, who is currently labeled as Janelle. Eric. Eric, I think you're on mute.
Thanks. I'm happy to be confused with Janelle anytime, but I'm actually Eric Goldstein from the Natural Resources Defense Council. Happy to see all of our Brooklyn friends, and thanks to all of you for taking the time out to speak with us tonight. And I'll pass it to who's ever left.
I think Celeste.
Hi, everyone. I'm Celeste. I am also with the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance. And I think that might be it on our end.
Yes, thank you. So I'll pass it over to Julia, who will walk us through the agenda, and then we'll pass it to Nikki after that. Sorry.
Okay, I will talk through. Thanks, everyone, for taking time for this.
Can everybody hear?
Can everybody hear me? Sorry, I'm a mumbler.
I know. Sorry, we just because the mic has to be here. So
okay, I'm gonna enunciate. So thanks everybody for taking the time to speak with our coalition today. Take time out of your SWAB meeting. I want to just talk through an agenda of what our presentation entails. First, we're going to talk about the purpose of this meeting. We're going to talk about the Transform Don't Trash Coalition and what we do, and then give a little bit of background about the solid waste management plan, which we've been calling the swamp. the current status of the swamp, and where this ties into our coalition's work. And then we will open it up for discussion and Q&A for everyone, to give their input. And then we'll close out with next steps and how we're going to move forward with the work that we're doing, and all of your awesome input. So we can go forward to the purpose. There we go. Okay, so by 2026, New York City has to draft and adopt a comprehensive program for how it will collect and manage its waste in a way that meets the city's sustainable waste management goals. The Transform, that is the swamp. The Transform Don't Trash Coalition believes this provides an opportunity for a public campaign that engages community and advocacy groups to help shape the formation of the new swamp to ensure it focuses on the right problems with innovative solutions. So that's where we come in as a line, as the TDT Coalition, and that's where you guys come in as well. So. Okay. So a little bit of background about our coalition, who we are. We were founded in 2013, and our coalition, Transform Don't Trash New York City Coalition, is dedicated to transforming New York City's commercial trash industry to reduce waste and pollution, foster clean and healthy communities for all New Yorkers, and create good jobs. Our coalition members include Align, Janelle and I, International Brotherhood of Teamsters Joint Council 16, NRDC, shout out Eric, New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, shout out Eunice, and New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, shout out Nikki.
Thanks.
I think you got it. Okay, great.
Yeah. So just outlining some of the purpose of the solid waste management plans, and for background, these are required by New York's Solid Waste Management Act of 1988. So there have been plans in 1992, and then the last one was in 2006. So it's a rare opportunity in that these come only once every 20 years. And we have a chance for public input. And the goals are to establish a cost-effective, reliable, and environmentally sound waste management system for 20 years, to reduce reliance on long-haul trucking and vehicle miles traveled, minimizing traffic and air pollution, to promote equitable distribution of waste facilities across all 5 boroughs, to enhance recycling and waste diversion efforts, and to integrate public and private waste management systems, including commercial waste, into a cohesive framework. So in the 2000, new swamps are for 10, not 20 years. Thank you. In the 2006 Solid Waste Management Plan, which I believe was the last one, although correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
There were
2006.
some main recycling initiatives were to achieve a 25% curbside recycling diversion by 2007, and a 70% recycling for combined residential and commercial waste by 2015. I think we fell substantially short of those targets. The second was to expand public outreach, pilot public space recycling, and develop composting programs. For residential waste management, there was a move to shift from trucks to barges and rail, and containerize waste for export by water or rail, reducing vehicle miles traveled. And then also to process organic and reusable waste locally to reduce vehicle miles traveled, create jobs, and create compost. Third, the commercial waste reforms included enforcement of stricter transfer station miles, so odor control and emissions reductions, and redistributing capacity from overburdened communities. Some traffic mitigation measures were to study alternative truck routes in order to reduce residential impacts. And then other initiatives were to modernize the fleet, research waste to energy technology, and and to analyze the composition of the waste. And then some important waste sector impacts to highlight, and then opportunities. Greenhouse gas emissions. Waste accounts for 11% of state greenhouse gas emissions. Landfills generate methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas emission. And reliance on trucks for export increases CO2 and particulate matter emissions. In terms of environmental justice and who is most impacted, transfer stations are concentrated in neighborhoods like the South Bronx, North Brooklyn, and Southeast Queens, exposing these residents to pollution, noise, and traffic, increasing respiratory illness and cardiovascular disease, and really compounding all of the various environmental injustices these communities face. There's also a lack of recycling access, and particularly in multifamily buildings, they face an inadequate recycling infrastructure. And again, stressing some opportunities, we can create good jobs, and there's evidence that composting and recycling may create many more local jobs than export and disposal. And the city can take action regardless of federal administration. I think I'll pass it to the next person. I'm not sure who that is.
That's Eric.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I know that many of you, this is just a review, so we'll try to go through it quickly because we really are interested in hearing your thoughts and all. And we know many of you participated in this plan or have been actively involved in trying to get it implemented over the years. So this is just a very, very quick recap, but a number of areas that we have focused on in the swamp are waste equity in the marine transfer stations. As most of you, I'm sure, know, the plan envisions the build out of the city's old marine transfer stations, and that has been accomplished. Part of the reasoning for all of that was to deal with the broad issue of waste equity, which is to ensure that the burdens of our commercial and residential waste disposal don't fall disproportionately on Black and brown communities in the city. Again, as many of you know, since the 1990s and the operation of the opening and expansion of all of the private land-based transfer stations, neighborhoods in the South Bronx, North Brooklyn, and Southeast Queens have gotten well more than their fair share of waste facilities. And one of the objectives of this plan was to deal with that issue. There also were lofty objectives on recycling and composting. And again, focusing on the commercial sector, it was realized even then that there was so much excessive vehicle miles traveled, particularly by the commercial corridors, that fixing that problem or addressing it was a broad general goal. And a strong focus of what many of us were fighting for in that plan was enhanced public education, some of which has happened and some hasn't. Again, in terms of what we've learned, while the major transfer stations were rebuilt, including Hamilton Avenue in Southwest Brooklyn, there were plans for construction of a recycling facility at Gansevoort in Manhattan. That has been delayed, and that's been a major problem, primarily because it's meant that so much of the Manhattan waste still has to travel to Brooklyn and can't be disposed of here in Manhattan. The city still has no plans to utilize these new marine transfer stations and rail facilities for commercial waste, even though that would be the most efficient way with the most significant reductions in VMT. And of course, we're still very far behind the goal of a 70% diversion for combined commercial and DSNY managed waste. As everybody around this table knows, we've still got a long way to go. There have been some improvements since 2006, but this is really, we see as a very significant opportunity to chart the path for the next 10 or 20 years, and to have a plan that forces the city council, the mayor, and even state government to act. And I will pass the baton, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, so this is just another slide, kind of just detailing some of the things that Eric had just noted. I know we're only scheduled till 7:15, so like Eric was saying, like Eric was saying, I think the main, aside from providing more public education around the swamp, because we're in the year in which the swamp is expiring and a new swamp is being developed, is that we really want to gather community input around what this new swamp should focus on. So for one, I think we have questions that we would like to ask everyone here just to gather input. But before we do that, we also wanted to open a space if there's any general questions about anything that was just shared or anything that wasn't clear. There's so many of us here, and many of us have been working on this for a while. So, if there's anything that anyone's unclear about, we'd be happy to answer before diving into the questions that we brought.
Do you want to read the questions? I can't.
So Kendall is asking what proportion of Manhattan's recyclable MPP goes to New Jersey by truck? Alcona says in New Jersey City. I believe that is only the glass. Is that not true?
I'm not sure.
No, there's a certain section of the city that actually is all of their stuff sent to Jersey City, is my understanding.
Can everybody hear the discussion?
But I don't know if anyone knows the answer, the official answer.
Ezra knows the answer.
Do you?
Not yet. I'm figuring that out through checking out the open data sets.
Okay. Yes, I don't think we're sure. Yeah, definitely.
Another question from Maggie Clark. Local law 19 of 1989 required 25% diversion in 5 years. The city has spent as little as possible on participation, so nothing has changed. The plan described seems to make the city more efficient in exporting our recyclables, organics, and reusables.
Yes, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. Seeing how the what do you call it, congestion pricing works with an incentive. Have you guys thought about developing incentives to get people to do more composting?
So that's something which I'll kind of explain a little bit more about this later, but that's something that we as a coalition are kind of thinking through, like what our proposals would be for the swamp. And that's also why we are meeting with different SWABs and having different meetings, because we also want to hear what ideas like community, like you all have, and how that could be incorporated. So that's something that I will note here.
I have a question.
Oh,
Just, I think Eric, maybe others were around for the development of the last one. And I'm interested to know more about what the outreach and engagement looked like from sanitation. Because I think one of the things that we've been on record as our office, expressing concern about is that they haven't started outreach and engagement yet. And, it's supposed to be pretty robust. And if there's something, that we should be asking for specifically for them to do based on what happened in the past that worked well, or I don't know, was it bad then and you had to put, I don't know. I just would love that perspective.
Do you mean, Lacey, specifically outreach and engagement regarding
Regarding, yeah, specifically.
Maybe Eric.
Yeah. Eric, do you?
Yeah, For some reason, I have this conversation on my iPhone, and the little picture of the Brooklyn Borough Hall is like looking through a telescope from the wrong end. But I think that was Lacey asking that question. Yeah. So in any event, this is a great a question and a big concern for us. We've had some very preliminary conversations with DSNY, and they talked about in general, once the plan they've got it in a what I'm going to say is an advanced state, there will be some public engagement, and the city council will also have to review the plan. And so that is another opportunity for us. But one of the reasons why the TTT Coalition has been engaging in initiating this process is because we share the concern that the public will not be involved sufficiently until things are too far down the line. So we think that we are going to try to do our little effort. We're having these listening tours and with several of the SWABs. We think the SWABs have a role and ought to be pressing DSNY to engage in conversation. The city council will have a process itself, uh, although again that comes pretty late. Once the plan has been fully developed by DSNY. What happened in 2006 is that the council submitted a plan to the department submitted a plan to the council. The council made some critical, maybe 10 pages worth of changes or amendments. But that came kind of late. The public was engaged in that. But it would be very helpful for all of us to be pressing for a more public engagement early on. And again, that's something we're working towards. And I think that's something where the SWABs could play a significant role.
Great. I think someone has.
Maggie has a hand up. Maggie? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both Eric and I go back quite far with these plans, having put together two citizens alternative plans in 91 and 2004. And we started working on this. I'm head of the Long Range Planning Committee of the Manhattan SWAB. So this, of course, is centrally in our wheelhouse. And I put earlier in the chat a 6-pager, which is an outline of what we think the next plan should be. We made it only 6 pages because we figured people don't read longer things. And but the 2004 version was 200 pages. And I don't know how many people read that, but anyway, my point earlier, I think, may have been misconstrued. Someone said that, a recent plan has been that there should be 25% diversion. But that was a requirement of law in 1989. And the sanitation department has done a horrific job. I mean, they have ignored participation. They send out maybe 1 brochure a year, 2 tops. And we've been looking into behavior change. I mean, I started looking into that as part of my PhD dissertation in the 90s. That's the thing that they're missing. They don't seem to be interested in getting to everybody. They're only sending a brochure out to the few percentage who will read it and do it. And that's not most of the people. Most of the people fall into various other categories, like they'll only do it if their peer group is doing it. They'll only do it if perhaps they've got some kind of incentive or disincentive. And I think that that's extremely important. And the 2 words that I haven't heard yet tonight is zero waste. And I would have thought that this plan should be a zero waste plan, be called a zero waste plan, have that as the main point, not that we're going to be collecting things more efficiently to send out. I mean, I think it's a crime that we're sending half of our recyclables out to be burned and buried, and all of our organics and all of our reusables that are on the curb, they also are getting burned and buried. And I'm not hearing anything in this proposed plan that would change that. So, that's what I'm all about, is making sure that we actually we suggest and implement a zero waste plan. We know how to do it. We wrote 120 pages of comments last summer before last when the DEC came out with their plan. We wrote down very specific, lots and lots of comments and got 44 groups to agree with us and sign on.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are all good comments, Maggie. We look forward to reviewing your 6-pager, and certainly education is a key part. Zero waste is a key part. And I think all of us on this call were probably involved in helping to pass that zero waste package of legislation a year and a half ago. And so now, of course, the challenge is implementation, and it starts with education. So we look forward to incorporating and reviewing your comments as well.
Yeah, we'd like to work with your group, sitting down together to.
That's why they're here, Maggie. So it's great. They're starting the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, it was actually. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're also happy to share our 120 pages of swamp comments from the state swamp, but we can share it digitally so you can search it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Maggie, what you were saying kind of like ties into some of the questions that we had, because like Rhonda was just saying, like that's the purpose of why we're here. Like we want to hear the thoughts that different groups, different organizations, community members have and what they've been working on. Because what we just read is what's in the 2006 swamp. So with the process now where DSNY is working on the current swamp, like we want to be able to create like our own version of like a people swamp that says, these are the things we think the 2026 swamp should prioritize. And some of the points that you brought up actually tie into some of the questions that we brought, and we're sort of already answering some of those questions, but some of those questions are like, what current challenges do you as an individual or your community face with regards to solid waste management? What do you think are the biggest issues regarding solid waste management here in New York City? What do you think the 2026 swamp should focus on? What feedback do you have around existing programs like the curbside program, the rollout of the commercial waste zone law, which is like a huge priority for our coalition, as well as, like Eric had mentioned before, the lack of the usage of marine transfer stations. What solutions do you think should be centered in the swamp? Are there any specific projects that anyone's already working on? And we just talked about public education, but do you think the DSNY is doing an adequate job of educating New Yorkers about these programs? So these are kind of questions that we had wanted to pose to also help with the discussion and conversation. And these are things that anyone can feel free to verbalize right now, whether it's on one question, on all the above. For everyone who's in person, I brought physical copies with those questions. So because I know we're on, time. So anyone can fill those in and we'll collect them when we leave. For everyone who's online, I can go to the next slide. There's a link here on the slide and we can also drop it in the chat. So this is a Google form that anyone can fill out now or after this meeting where we'll be collecting that feedback. But I know we still have like, a couple more minutes to discuss. So oops, can't go back. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I mean, we still have a couple more minutes if anyone has anything that they'd like to verbalize from those questions, or if there's anything anyone wants to drop in the Zoom chat about any of these questions, which would pretty much just continue the conversation that we're having.
There's another question in the chat asking, Mark is asking if you guys can engage with community boards. Are you planning to do that in your engagement?
We didn't talk about it yet. We wanted to start with the solid waste advisory boards and then kind of take it from there. And then, full honesty, we're like a small coalition, so we're also thinking about capacity and what we're able to do. But I think that's a good suggestion.
I wonder if there's room for like some kind of, like, you guys had a big
Like
you
a
know,
round
swabs
table
of
type
that,
thing.
Yeah, outreach committee could do a round table with like whoever wants to show up from the different community boards.
Yeah, we had
From
a
the
lot of
various-
engagement. That we focused on Brooklyn, but that
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
another, one meeting type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. You could do it borough by borough or all one meeting. That'd be
yeah.
good.
We can talk.
Okay.
Talk
Yeah, we
about,
can talk
about how we approached it to try to get maximum engagement.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question, asking if you can cite analogs for public engagement for other city programs, policies. The process supporting the recent City of Yes proposal is worth looking at, he says, so I'm not sure.
I feel like that's a response to my question about kind of like what we should be asking for.
Oh, I see.
I mean, yeah, I could talk all day about various degrees of success of city outreach, but I think you're right. The City of Yes one was very thorough, so that we could present to sanitation as a model.
I mean, was it thorough? Wasn't it kind of shoved down our throats a little bit? I mean, I don't know if there was a lot of opportunity
Well,
for
I
people
just
to
know
talk.
they did a lot of outreach.
Yeah.
They did a lot of, from my experience at the community board, they brought 200 or 400 pages within a month for everyone to see.
No.
So it was dense, but like the turnaround time was tough. So
Yeah. So maybe that's not, I mean, it's good to look at, but something to think about, like to build off of, to see what worked and what didn't work, maybe. Yes.
So, I have a general question. How much influence is the swamp supposed to have on what city government does? I mean, are they supposed to follow these recommendations in some way?
Yes, they have to follow it. Whether or not they reach the goals which is what we're kind of talking about, is a whole other issue. But yeah, this is supposed to guide the way that the city goes about establishing like different policies.
So
I mean, this is why the language in the swamp is so important, because those of us who are advocates try to make the language as tight as possible, and those of us who work for the city try to keep it flexible to the maximum degree. The hammer in all of this, as someone said, is the 1988 Solid Waste Management Plan. It requires that permits issued, so permits for landfills, incinerators, transfer stations, whatever, must be consistent with the solid waste management plan. And so to the extent you could get in some firm specifics here, you could then use the permit process to secure enforcement. But again, the way it's drafted, it's often viewed primarily as a guidance document. But when you're going to seek legislation, say at the city council, it's an additional piece of ammunition that you can say that this proposal is consistent with the solid waste management plan. And in theory, that ought to drive the city policy.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying. Beth, do you have a question?
I have like 40, but I'll only name a couple. I'm just looking at your focus areas, and I think it's interesting. How would I phrase this as a question? I'm thinking about DSNY's goals, or at least what their stated goals maybe were under the previous commissioner, and they have had a big focus on containerization. I think in this room, I won't speak for everyone, but there's a lot of mixed feelings about that. And the way that they're going about it. And I don't see that within like your priority areas. And I'm just wondering, as a coalition head, how do you work with that tension? And I think this aligns too with like, right, we know there needs to be more education and outreach. It's so clear. But how then do you really work to advocate that and work if you're hearing, if there's a very different kind of narrative coming from DSNY, how do you work against that or with that and make this a cohesive thing that's really going to be able to be enforced, enacted, etc. If that makes sense as a question.
Yeah, I think I understand. So you're sort of asking, since within our priorities and since every single topic is listened to, so how do we kind of work everything together?
And how do you like work against competing priorities, I think is the thing, right? And I use containerization as an example because that seems right. Like I feel like hearing from DSNY or years like that's been like a huge thing for them. Maybe it's not a huge thing for us because we want to talk more about composting. We want to talk more about maybe better ways to manage. And so how do you sort of work with these competing interests to put forward a plan that we know is in New Yorkers' best interest, but also that will able to be implemented from the powers that be and work within those competing interests?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us as a coalition, like we've been around for a couple different years, so the coalition has like priorities that we work on together as a group, but our individual organizations also work on different issues separately. So these are just things that we are prioritizing as a coalition, but that doesn't mean that other things are not equally important, if not more important, but these are just the way, like what we prioritize. So if we would kind of name that in a report or anything that we do from is to say these are the priorities for the coalition and in ways in which we've engaged. However, there are other areas that are of concern, like containerization or other things like that. So it doesn't mean that we're not looking at it to say it's a competition. Obviously, the waste system here in New York is very complex and there's multiple solutions and things that have to be addressed within that system. But for us, we're just seeing these are things we prioritize, but there are many other things that need to be prioritized here.
And feasibility is like top of mind. Like I think everything we pursue strategically. You know, our core is, you know, we want to do this outreach because we want to pursue the things that are most important strategically. But part of that strategy is what is feasible actually.
Great.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we're definitely consider that. And
I mean, and I think the other thing we've discussed is sort of we have our priority areas, but if we realize there's a particular topic that keeps coming up across multiple spaces, then we're like, okay, this is obviously something that is a huge priority for different groups. And, you know, as I said, we're taking the input everyone's giving. So if this topic comes up multiple times, like we'll use containerization, then we need to think about how do we incorporate that into what we're doing, because it's something that has been clearly named as something of importance. We won't get everything, but you know, that's what we are that's what we've kind of talked about. Does that answer your question? Sort of?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I think it's a complicated thing, and I think there's so much to say because there's so many challenges. I think that we have seen, you know, in sort of like what the powers that be have implemented versus what we know would be like more adequate strategies and how we
right.
advocate for that.
Right, and I think the other thing to name, just in terms of the SWAMP process, is that once the draft plan is released, like the city council has to review it and they will have hearings. So that's also like another opportunity for the public to go directly before city council to say these particular topics, or this is what we've seen in the draft SWAMP, but we don't think it reaches the actual goals that are needed. So these are the things that we'd like to have. So like there are other opportunities to still engage in that process.
Do you have a sense of when that will happen?
The hearings?
Yeah.
Probably sometime next year. But that depends on if DSNY kind of keeps their timeline. So it would be sometime next year.
Extremely doubtful that anything like this would come up before Election Day.
Yeah.
So what solutions do you see that are different from the solutions that have been proposed and implemented in the past that will work to increase the level of recycling?
So,
but innovation.
I'm going to be honest, that is something that we are currently doing, because the first step we've been doing is to look at the SWAMP and say what targets were listed out in the SWAMP and then what progress has been made. And then from looking at that progress, where the gaps are and how we think we could fill those gaps. So to be very honest with you, we're in that process of kind of in that initial process and then developing the solutions that we think make the most sense.
Maggie, do you want to ask?
Yeah.
I keep getting muted, so it takes
We
me a while.
mute Maggie when she's talking, so we don't hear extraneous noise.
There's no noise here. I'm alone. Anyway, in 2006, there was essentially no waste prevention in that plan at all. And that was a bone of contention. And it was seen that being more efficient with collection and export was more important, which I vehemently disagreed with. And I'm seeing the same thing set up again. You know, this is what I'm hearing. It's deja vu. I'm hearing what happened in 2006 happen again. I really hope that we can avoid that, because if you put no waste prevention or reuse or anything else in the plan, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get zero waste either. I think zero waste is attainable, but it's only attainable if we really require that every single year of the plan has a percentage of getting towards zero in that field. So waste prevention, certain number of bans go into effect. Reuse, we work towards having a municipal reuse program with curbside collection, just like we do for recycling and organics. And for the others, to improve the participation, you can never get to zero waste unless you are nearly 100% participating. They don't seem to understand that at all. They think that putting out one brochure, they've checked a box, they're done. They don't seem to think that it's important to reach the people that they're not reaching.
Okay, thanks. Can we have our speakers respond to that if you want to?
Oh yeah, the only thing I was just gonna say, even though it's not listed, like zero waste is still a priority. Like I know for NEJA works very heavily around the zero waste law, and that's like the law. That's one of the laws that we are looking on in our analysis of the swamp, like what goals were set in the zero waste law and what progress has been made. And so the other thing I would say is, which is towards this last slide here, is that the input that we gather here from the survey, from our conversation, the 120-page document that Maggie shared, like I said earlier, are trying to put together something that we're calling like a people swamp. So something that gathers all that input. And within that, like we have talked about making sure that is like the wider open. I thought that was mine. That's my ringtone too. So within that swamp, like we are planning to center zero waste there as like the overarching theme, the huge thing that ties the swamp together. So I definitely appreciate Maggie that you've brought it up a couple of times though, because it's not named here, but it is something that we do recognize as important and necessary, and something that we are looking to put within our swamp and kind of like center the solutions that we're giving around this bigger goal of getting to zero waste. But yeah, so that's pretty much like our next step. Like I said, is the survey link is there on the presentation. We can also send it afterwards. I'll hand out physical copies here. We have our TDT website, or if anyone has questions, my email is here on the presentation. So feel free to email me with any questions that you have, any lingering questions.
I have a last question. Are you able to quantify how effective your operation has been?
Well,
today's our first meeting, so we will be checking that.
But you did a lot of other stuff.
I mean, before this, you came together for a reason that's a law that's been passed.
Yeah,
Well,
no, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, the swamp is just one area. Like you said, is one area we focus on. We also focus on the commercial waste zone law implementation. We have legislation that we prioritize, like Intro 55 and Intro 696, which are both like marine transportation and composting, specific to both of those laws. So yeah, there's different areas that we are focusing on. This is just one of the things that we're doing, and then we're planning to, like all the meetings that we have, see how many people we've spoken to, how many people fill out the surveys, all of those things.
Is the survey link accessible via your website also, or is that separate?
It is not accessible.
Why don't we
Yeah.
send it out right after this meeting? We could send it to everyone. We could send it to, I don't know if you want it to be limited or if you want it to be everybody who comes to meetings, members and
Yeah.
guests. Do you want it to be, we have a public list also.
As many people.
Okay.
We open to it.
All right.
Yeah, it's an open link, so anyone can fill out the survey. It's an open link.
Can I just say one more thing, which is I was gonna bring up interest expense 6, so I'm glad about something that you're working on, and I'm just like, yes, just put that like right into the stuff, like, it's
Yeah.
great, awesome.
And recently we had Emily Gallagher, an assembly member, and she's now the chair of the Commission on Solid,
Yeah,
Solid
we've
Waste.
met with her too.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for your time.
Oh, thank you
We're
so
glad
much,
for you to join.
so much for what you're doing and for coming. And we're very excited and we hope to stay in touch. I'm sure we'll figure out ways to keep, engaging. We'll send you all the links that people put in the chat.
Yes, please.
And we will send out the link to the survey unless you want to. However you want to do it.
Yeah,
If
I mean-
someone wants to put the link in the chat from your coalition, you could do that.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how
Oh, yeah.
quickly,
We could.
Can you start passing these around?
Yeah.
The surveys, but for those of us in person, we've got an actual.
Yes, it'll be the notice. Put up.
I mean, they want it quicker than that. Sure.
And pencils. I'm gonna do it online.
Oh, no, right.
I'm gonna save them the type. Everyone's gotta find my thing. I'm gonna do it online. I'll send you guys the typing. Other than that, probably scan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Sorry to be
I
that.
don't use
I know. I'm the same way with it.
But then again, I
Thank you.
How long is the survey gonna be open?
What are we in April? Probably for another 1 to 2 months.
Yeah.
Did the results of the survey get published at what detail level, like actual people's answers?
No, so we're gonna combine people's answers and kind of like we're kind of figuring out how we want to lay out the report, but we can combine everyone's answers. So we wouldn't name like this person says this or whatever, but we'd combine everything.
Thank you, Brooklyn SWAB.
Thank you guys. We're really glad. Let it be known that you started here. That's thanks a lot. And thanks everyone for coming. You guys are welcome to stay or go. We're not insulted if you want to leave.
I do have one request, which is that our guests who are here, before you leave, if you wouldn't mind signing in, there's a sign-in sheet.
Oh yeah, we sign. We're at the top of the
Oh, you
list.
are, great. You all signed. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Is that everything? I feel like
Did everybody in person get a physical survey?
Yes.
Pass around?
Some people are
We'll
gonna
be
do it
here
online.
until the end.
Oh,
but-
good. Thank you.
We were just gonna hang around.
Oh, good. That's
Um,
good. Okay.
So I guess.
All right. And all right. Well, thank you. Thanks very much, everybody. This is amazing. To hear from you, and it's great. We've been talking about the swamp in legislative committee a lot, and thinking about how to get heard on this. So the more voices, the more people, the better. So thanks to the people swamp. Okay. So now we should move on to Lacey, the update from the VP Renes's office.
Hi, everybody. Let's see, what do I have to say? In the trash world, we submitted testimony for the City Council's budget hearing on sanitation, in addition to a few other things. So that was incorporated into the VP's official preliminary budget response, which we submitted a couple weeks ago. We focused primarily on zero waste efforts, community composting, commercial waste zone implementation, sort of containerization, all the hits. And we are now prepping for, there's going to be an oversight hearing on commercial waste zone implementation on April 23rd. So we'll see all of you from the coalition there, I assume. Thank you all for that. And I think right now we're really focused on the budget because so we're anticipating that they're going to they're gonna make an announcement at that hearing about the next phase. Right now, they've only, as you may all know, completed their pilot in Central Queens, one district out of what will eventually be 20. And so they haven't made any commitments about the next steps yet officially. So we're anticipating that and really want to push them to do as much as possible, but they've sort of been hinting at being limited by budget constraints, and we're in the budget process right now. So we're trying to get more of a sense of like what we need to advocate for specifically to try to like make the rollout go faster because it's already so delayed. And then I also want to mention some of the events I've talked about before, but I will say one more time. Thursday is our State of the Borough. It's at 7 o'clock at Boys and Girls High School in Bed-Stuy. We would love for you to come and hear about what we've been up to and the VP's vision for the borough. And then we have a couple Earth Month events coming up later this month. On April 28th, we are doing a conference called Planning for Brooklyn's Climate Future. Rhonda and Mal will be talking about our work on Intro 696, a little preview of what's to come again there. But there's also a lot of other interesting conversations about energy and data and planning. We have some really exciting folks. And then the next day, the 29th, is going to be the Sustainable Building Resource Fair. We have done that in the past. You may have attended. Folks can come and get all kinds of resources on greening your buildings. There'll be contractors there, there'll be organizations there, there'll be city agencies there. So that's from 4 to 8 on the 29th. There's info about all this stuff on our website. It's brooklynvp.nyc.gov, I believe. And you can find the links in RCP and all that stuff there. So hope to see you at all those things.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay. I think we're losing members. We're losing people. So maybe we should vote on the minutes from last month. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen, for doing those. Very detailed. How many people do we have? We have 18 in the. Oh, and then here we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 here. We just need. Okay, and we have 8 here. So 18 this one, 13, 14, 3. Okay. So does anyone propose to adopt the minutes from last month's meeting? Thank you, Vasile. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. And all in favor? You can raise your hand, I guess.
Keep them up.
Yeah,
It's a
she's
little
gonna
hard to
scroll
count
through.
in our situation here.
Okay, everybody's voting. Okay, body say no? Anybody no want to? Any nays? That's his hand still up. I don't think you're a nay. Yeah. And then any abstentions?
One abstention, I think.
Okay, 1 abstention, 2 abstentions. No, Vasile was a yes.
Yeah.
He did put it down. Okay, all right, great, it passed, thank you. Great job, Mary Ellen, thanks for doing that. And as always, you can watch and review them again on our YouTube channel. So that's kind of fun. All right, so now we should do coalition updates. Save Our Compost?
Hi, yes. So I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I'm Sherry. I'm the Brooklyn SWAB rep on Save Our Compost. It was a busy month in the compost world. So as Lacey mentioned, it is budget season, and there was a preliminary budget hearing for DSNY mid-month last month. There was a rally that Save Our Compost organized, actually during the budget hearing, because that's when we could get the steps, and it worked out. We had some great kids there from different ages. That was amazing, and we had some council members spoke, so it was good, along with some coalition members. So the council did put out their budget response. I know Kendall had sent it out with a couple notes. The only one I can remember, and I'm sorry, is the compost one. So the community composting work that they funded last month, we're trying to get some clarification on the wording that's listed in there, because we're not quite sure what it means, and I'm not going to try and repeat it for fear of not saying it correctly. But we are working on getting clarification on that, just to see kind of where it stands. It's still negotiation. It's still, nothing's for sure or not. But I will say there is a petition that I could share if folks are interested. If you haven't already done it, it's on the Save Our Compost website. That just goes out to like the city council member, your council member, the speaker, and I think some of the budget committee folks, and the mayor. So just to say, thank them for supporting it for the last year, bringing all of the food scrap drop-offs back that came back. And then, bring Master Composter. I have to give him a shout out for Master Composter, and all kinds of other programs that are back because of that funding. So we're asking for folks to, do the petition or reach out on their own. There's also one for groups to sign on to as well. So I'll make sure those go out again. I feel like I sent them, but I can do it again. There's also, for folks that are interested, an advocacy webinar that I think Lonnie and folks, I wasn't able to listen to it. I haven't been able to watch it yet, but We Act put together, that I can share the link to the recording and some resources there too, just to help people that are newer to the advocacy world. So, because they hear us, but we gotta make sure they know we appreciate all the work they did, and we want to continue.
So maybe we can send out that link if you want to do that. I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay.
You want everybody to the bigger group too? Okay.
Yeah.
The petition and the petition and the okay.
Petition and the advocacy webinar. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's all. We're still meeting. We're meeting again this week. The folks that got funding for this year make up the New York City Community Compost Network. And they did have a retreat to kind of work on, some like bigger picture plans and talk through some things. So that also happened in the last month. So it's been a busy March. But and there's a website for that too that I can share in case folks haven't been on it. Everybody's got a page on there. So yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That was a great update. How about reusable NYC?
I attended the meeting this month. Not too much new. They did send that letter out to Councilmember Powers to encourage him to take up the Choose to Reuse bill and resubmit it. And that's the bill that would require corporate-owned fast casual restaurants to offer customers reusable food packaging that can be returned, sanitized, and reused. Very unfortunately, they still haven't received a response from that group letter. Hopefully next month I'll have a different, some more to say about that. Then they're also working on the Hydration for All Act, and it looks like there are only 19 co-sponsors, so they need, 26 to move it. So if you live in an area where your council member hasn't signed on, please, we do, they are encouraging people to reach out and try to convince their council members to sign on. And then lastly, it sounds like Sandy Nurse is gonna submit that resolution supporting the New York EPR bill. So hopefully we see something on that in the future. And that's pretty much all we talked about this month.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Okay, executive committee, we already approved the minutes. I will say also, is there anything else we need to report on? I don't think, I mean.
I owe people letters on membership.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that, y'all.
No, that's all right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and also.
And remind people that we. Oh, yes, and if you haven't reapplied and you need to, please do that. And then I'll send you your letter in a timelier manner.
Yeah. Yeah, so please, everyone reapply, and anyone else can apply who wants to be a member. Thank you, new members. What else? The 696, we're revising it. It's getting closer. We're getting comments on it. We will send it around. In addition, and we'll have a adequate period where people can read through it and vote whether to join in with as a SWAB to sign on to it. It would be sad if I didn't sign on and the Brooklyn Borough President is part of it, but that's just a statement, not persuasive. Yeah. So next, nominating committee. Michael, do you have any updates?
Well, we do have that, so nominations are open. I encourage everyone to apply, towards experience, personal experience, I can tell you. And we do have nominations for all the positions, which is great. So that will bring us into the next 2 years either way. And again, I encourage you to throw your hat in the ring if you're interested.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks for heading that up.
And you too.
Yeah, everyone. Okay. Okay, legislative committee. You've been busy.
Yeah, so we've met twice in the last couple weeks to discuss the CWC oversight hearing and discuss the testimony that we are putting together for that. It really focuses on the lack of information that has been shared about how that those commercial waste zones have been rolled. That one commercial waste zone has been rolled out. As well as a call for DSNY to align the CWZ with the waste equity law, the zero waste law, and integrate it into the solid waste management plan. So we are meeting again at this tomorrow actually to polish up that testimony and vote on it so they can go out to all the various SWABs to vote on, so it can be presented as an all SWAB testimony at that meeting on the 23rd. We're also drafted a letter to the council members in support of the community compost network and a letter to the governor in support of the Better Bottle Bill. So that's strongly borrowing from previous statements we made on both of those. So again, we'll be meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. if you want to provide any feedback on any of that. If you want access to the links of those documents as well, feel free to reach out to me. And I'll send out an email after this letting you all know how to attend if you would like. That's
Thank you. That was quite a lot. That was quite a full update. Thank you so much for all you're doing and for communicating it so thoroughly. I just also want to say that with the 696 document, we have Lee who's been working on it with us to make it look beautiful, and she's back on the task as we've gone through and kind of butchered it up with all of her edits, and she's putting all the pieces back together again. So thank you so much for the work you're doing. We really, really appreciate that. Just want to acknowledge that for everybody. Outreach committee.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. The outreach committee is kind of strategizing on ways, once again, to connect with public schools, especially in regards to separating the organics. That's been an ongoing focus for the outreach committee. We're continuing with that. Also, the committee is considering a collaboration with the Manhattan SWAB team, the SWAB team that is working on a survey that's going out to building owners and supers. And we've yet to make that connection, but I think that may happen in the near future. Those are the main things we've been focusing on. Our letter to the city council was not approved by the executive committee, so that's sitting. Maybe we'll find another use for that. And the next meeting of the outreach committee, if you want to join, is going to be on April 21st. That's always the third Monday of the month. April 21st, 6:30. Send me an email if you want the links and such. Unless, of course, if you're already on the outreach committee, you don't need to do that. That's a done deal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And do you want to make your?
Yeah, I can talk about it.
So this came about from the outreach committee work?
It definitely did. Yeah. So we have this beautiful benefit, right, of DSNY publishing clean data sets once a month for organics and collection across the board. So myself partnered with William from Manhattan SWAB are taking that information. Really, William did all the hard math and creating a beautiful spreadsheet for it. But now what we're doing is creating some nice visualizations and graphs so that the data can be live online somewhere and folks can look at trends over time. So specifically with enforcement starting on April 1st, we can actually see if that made a difference in capture rates and month to month, understand what that looks like. Second, it'll be spliceable and filterable by borough, by community district. So it'll be a lot easier to get that information rather than digging through lines of data. And then obviously it'll be shareable. So it'll be a lot more accessible and easy to get that information. Hoping to have a first draft or a version 2.0 ready to share by the next meeting. If anyone is interested in looking at that before then or playing around with definitions or some of the logic in it, feel free to reach out and you can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, especially for people who don't really enjoy digging through data, and just to have it handed to them like that, it's really nice.
Can I say something?
Yes,
about that?
please.
I think, and maybe there was someone paying closer attention than I was at the budget hearing, but my understanding is that sanitation said that they're not actually going to start issuing fines until next year.
Is
that true?
That was for the bids.
Oh, the bid,
Yeah.
not for
Yeah.
residential.
Yeah.
So has anyone heard of anyone
Yes.
receiving any fines?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. It came up in my community.
Really?
It came up in my community board meeting actually last month, which was the last Tuesday of the month, that people had already received fines and it wasn't even April 1st.
Oh.
And I asked them to repeat that again and asked, are you sure? And I had it was it was the same day as the sanitation hearing where I heard them say they weren't issuing it until April 1st and they've already been doing it.
What specific, I'm curious to know what specifically they're being issued violations for.
For not putting their trash in bins. Because they'll put it out.
This is specific to organics.
That also is happening.
And that's why I asked, but I thought that was, maybe they were conflating the two, but they said, no, it's specific for organics. And so it's for not using brown bins, and they're allegedly actually going through people's trash.
So,
Sorry,
I'll
I didn't mean
make-
to cause chaos.
No, I also just want to add one note of clarification. The law is that you have to separate your food scraps, not that you have to use the brown bins. That's why they have to go through the bags if they're going to issue fines. Because some folks, especially if you're in a one-family house and you have a compost system in your backyard, you shouldn't find anything in your bags.
Right.
So that's why that's what they're doing. And then I've also heard of if you don't have the tight fitting lid. Didn't someone say that? Yeah. So that's another thing that goes along with it. But
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't specific to my building, this was in my community board. People mentioned having received fines already in March.
My next door neighbor puts her trash out in black plastic bags every day, and then I was putting our trash out, and I said, don't you need to put containers out? We got fined. She's like, I've never been fined.
What?
And I'm like, okay.
It
Same thing with the apartments across the street. It's like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you should put arrows next to it.
I know, I feel like calling
Trash.
I'm not,
Not for nothing, but.
It's random, whenever they come, right?
Trucks are also leaving waste that's in trash bags and other bins on the site.
Wow.
Well, not bags. I saw recycling that.
Recycling doesn't even have to be in it. Oh, it doesn't?
No.
I know, I mean.
Only trash.
Oh, wow.
And compost.
Yes.
And yeah. Okay.
But I also heard they're not gonna do the enforcement until after Passover.
That's not what happened in Community Board 12.
Yeah.
In CB 12. Maybe they did it early, but
Wow.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. How about, that's a perfect segue to organics industry. Is anybody here?
Organics, yeah. I'm driving. I hope you can hear me. Well, you talked about our survey. So we have definitely started the outreach to agencies that have like building management companies as members. So we are working on that. The survey it's getting almost done. We have, I just wanted to address, also add, I don't think anyone added that there is now a 311 feature where you can report your building if they don't provide the service. And I know of people that have done it and their building got fined like the next day. So they really do act on it. Yeah, we have our committee meeting next Monday, and I just ask. I mean, now that it's just good to hear what other feedback and what other observations people are having. We talked about that a lot at the organics committee, but if there's anybody here that wants to share any more, tidbits of information on what they're hearing and observing, I'd love to know.
Allison, I do want to share with you one other thing, which is a few people here know that I've been talking to my super since before the rollout, so for about over a year and a half, about getting brown bins in our building. And he knows that I am the person who knows the information about this. And we've had one brown bin that I ordered that's been like hidden away somewhere. I don't even know where. And he called me in a panic last week, actually, and because of the fines, and said, "Help, we need to do this. I need your help." So the fines, and I think what's really happening is our management is now paying attention and have now are now talking to the supers, because I think our super prior to this, his hands were kind of tied because management wasn't supporting it and they weren't going to put up money for bins, and so it's very interesting that at least from this anecdotal point of view, that the fines seem to be having an effect on people to pay attention. But the problem is, to our point earlier, is there hasn't been enough education and outreach. So suddenly people realize they have to do it and they don't know how, and they don't know how to get the word out. And there's like a lot of misinformation about containerization as well, because my super wanted to thought that we needed to order the containers that the 1 to 9 unit buildings have, and that we should be ordering a whole bunch of those. And I was like, no, we have 98 units in our building. We do not need those yet, and that's not part of the plan. So there's a lot of misinformation and like mix up over like what needs to happen for organics versus containerization. But it was a very interesting conversation, and I think, and especially also having heard it from my community board the week before, people who have not been paying attention at all and have been very resistant are suddenly paying attention.
Wow.
Whether this will hold, who knows?
That's Who?
Oh, Bob,
Right. Yeah, that's great. Well,
And I can add, sorry, Allison, if you were going to mention this, but there are, in case you don't know, there are several organizations that are in the Community Compost Network that are doing outreach to buildings to help support that. And we are very busy right now. So I think most of you know that I work for the Ecology Center, full disclosure. But so we have two folks that have been focused on Manhattan. Big Reuse is folks working on Brooklyn and Queens. They're usually doing a lot of community events to try to get the word out, but they do have a form, and I'll share all these forms if I didn't already. I think I did, but if I didn't, I'm sorry. And Grow NYC is focused in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and the Bronx, mostly in 10+ unit buildings. So, and we're all chatting with each other, chatting with DSNY, and they're the folks that are still there to try to make sure we're all on the same page. And there's kitchen container giveaways, and there's lots of things happening should that be needed. So yeah, I can share those.
Are you guys getting paid by DSNY for that, or is that something? That
It's through the council funding. For us, and I think I should not speak for Big Reuse or Grow NYC. I believe so, but I do not know for sure. I would think so, but that's the City Council Community Compost Network funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for adding that.
Has anybody heard, like, is this program, like, potentially on the chopping block with, like, new fiscal year funding? Like,
well, we
for the network, you mean?
No, I mean, no.
For
citywide.
For the curbside.
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything like that. They seemed committed in the hearing. I mean, there was a city councilwoman who asked why we would bother to separate our contract. And Domingo was standing next to me and said, I don't think that I would ever have heard DSNY defending composting, but here they did it. Yeah. But also the answer is, it's the law. Exactly.
Well, no, I'm just, like, concerned with, like, federal funding getting cut for other programs and the city having to, like,
how much of that?
Yeah, we haven't heard that yet.
Okay.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, I think in the mayor's preliminary budget, it's still there, right? But that I don't know. Then there's the back and forth in the budget process. So the mayor has the preliminary. The city council responded.
And the thing is,
and there we go.
Tell me if I'm wrong, Matt, but it's not like it doesn't necessarily save the city money, but it doesn't cost extra money. It's kind of a
Well, it's costing extra money now, but eventually someday it will all balance out.
right.
We're double dipping.
Yeah. Right.
They were willing to pump it out.
Yeah, no, it would just be like, with so much ramp up happening, it would be a shame to, like, do just kidding.
Yeah,
budget
exactly.
cuts.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay. All right. So events committee.
So as I mentioned last month, we are moving ahead with the annual Riverkeeper sweep. We are going to clean up Erie Basin Park on Saturday, May 3rd. As part of the Riverkeeper 14th annual cleanup event. The information about the event has been shared in the agenda. There's a link to register. The event is up on our Instagram page. And we're looking to spread the word about the event. It's a great opportunity. We get a lot of, last year we got registrants just from Riverkeeper, and then they get to learn about BkSWAB, so it's a little bit of a event to get them to know who we are and come to our meetings. Mary Ellen's reached out to some high schools to get potentially some high schoolers involved.
Because community service hours. that high school students need community service
Mhm.
hours.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been too responsive, but.
Yeah. Maybe you could mention that, like, hey, this might be a good,
Yeah, community service.
yeah.
Okay.
And maybe
Yeah.
mention that we're appointed by the borough president will make you feel more.
Yeah.
It's important.
Do you have any contacts in that regard, or if you do a blast in schools?
Like
We can't do
sustainability?
any blasts right now because we're in a blackout period.
Oh, right.
Got it. Okay.
Maybe sustainability coordinators, we can figure out, I mean, outreach committee might be able to, maybe we can connect you with outreach committee.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the event is happening, and now we're just looking to do outreach to promote the events, to get registrants. And we're in touch with Council Member Vilas's office to let them know it's happening. Last year they donated gloves. This year we're asking them for trash bags. So it's happening. I'll send out the notice about the next meeting when that's scheduled.
Yeah, I think you should also mention that it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And, you know, you get to climb all over the shoreline.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was fun.
What's that time? It's 9:30 to noon.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And yeah, Michael came and Deb came and Mark came and Bassan.
Oh, yeah.
Bassan came and some other schoolie came. So it really was fun, and they do provide coupons for local breweries, so we can all go out and celebrate and have lunch and drink a beer and have cider if you want on Riverkeeper.
Yay. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so now how about, let's hear from the NYCHA committee. Thanks for organizing that, by the way. Thanks for bringing it
By the
together.
way, Suzanne, before you begin your presentation, I have your umbrella, not here.
Oh, okay. But the event came off today. I thought it was good at the Wagner houses in East Harlem. And it was really an educational event, and I thought the residents were receptive. I ran the bingo, so I didn't see the rest of the event too much, but what did you think, Mark?
Well, I thought it was pretty good. We didn't have a huge turnout because it rained. But, you know, we got a waste audit done that we wanted to do. Compost Power was there, and the Sanitation Foundation attended as well with the display. So I think it went well. Thanks for running the
Do you want to tell people what the event was? I think we can.
It was called the Waste Dive, and there's going to be 2 more where there's some waste audit going on, but it's basically setting up tables and having games and discussions that educate people about how to recycle. And there's 2 more events, April 22nd and May 10th. May 10th is in Chinatown, and the 22nd is in West Harlem. And the next meeting of the Manhattan SWAB committee is NYCHA committee is May 8th.
Okay, thank you. And if you want to share the next waste dive, the next event, we can share it out to the wider group if you want it to be shared to the wider
Yes, certainly they would like more volunteers.
group. Okay.
And I amplified it on Instagram too, so.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. As far as the announcements, I still have the master composter certification.
Yep, still going.
Good on there. And thanks again for setting up the Riverkeeper sweep. And the other thing is, full disclosure, I'm a board member of Sure We Can, and there's a cleanup on April 22nd with street cleanup, garden planting, and recycle sorting. And the recycle sorting at Sure We Can is like nobody's ever seen it before because they're doing it by brands, because that's how they separate it according to which distributor carries which brand of, and this is, the canners are totally, completely fluent in you know, who distributes which kind of drink. So it's kind of a fun game to play. Makes you grateful that all you have to do is think about metal, glass, plastic, and food scraps and paper and trash instead of all the different distributors. But anyway, does anybody have anything else to bring up?
I have a quick announcement that's not directly SWAB related, but is for civic engagement related. Just a reminder for folks who might not know that this week is participatory budget voting week, and it officially ended yesterday, except online voting was extended until tonight.
Oh.
So it's the ballot is open online until 11:59 p.m. And if you're not sure if your council member participates, you can check by going to vote.pbnyc.org, and that will take you to the ballot. And it is open, and anyone ages 11 years old or older who lives or has a special interest in the district can vote. So if you work or go to school in a district, or have kids who go to school in a district, you can vote in that district and get to decide how city money is spent in that city council district if your council member is participating.
So you can do it somewhere where you work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, but you can only vote once.
Right.
So you can only vote in one district.
Oh, I see.
So,
so if you already voted in your own.
So if you already voted in your own, that's your vote.
Okay.
But if you haven't, or if your council member doesn't participate and you work or go to school in another district, you can vote in that.
Okay. Good. Okay. Great, thanks. That's great news. So, anybody else have anything else? We're finishing early. Not that we're finishing. If anybody wants to say anything, if you guys want to say anything else, please go ahead.
Thank you so much.
I know,
Thank you
thank
guys.
you.
We'll definitely
We're so-
continue to be in touch with all of this.
Yeah.
We were here
incredibly
scribbling
beneficial.
and making notes.
Oh,
We're like,
yes.
oh, this sounds fun.
Yes,
Oh,
this is
good.
great. This is great. I'll see you guys in Red Hook for sure.
Yes, oh, good.
I have a question. Are you talking to any of the mayoral candidates? So many are talking about, the housing crisis. I'm going to build 1 million more houses. Are they making a commitment to have infrastructure that matches specifically for waste? Because so many buildings get set up in NYCHA as well without proper spacing for waste considerations.
It's something I've been looking into, and I think a lot of them are waiting till this month to release their more environmental and climate platforms.
And there have been a couple of different climate forums.
Yeah.
So different groups are asking different questions. So I know for us that was one of the questions that we had. But I know there's a couple other forums coming up. I'm not sure if there's a specific focus on one area or if there's different areas.
Yeah, there were a couple there was a climate justice one that was just at the end of March.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collegial.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Anything else? We're so efficient. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you in May. It May the 5th. Yeah. Cinco de Mayo. So maybe if we all want to come in person, we can go out after, because I'm sure nobody will be out at the parks. All right. Thanks everybody. Good night. Yeah.
I can email you too or give you my email.